In this movie, I'm going to show you how to configure Microsoft Outlook with your Google Apps account or your Gmail account. So you can actually use the IMAP protocol to sync the messages on your desktop mail application like Outlook with your web application like Gmail or your Google Apps mail account. So IMAP is generally a better protocol to use than POP. It's just more secure and it's more consistent. So when you can use IMAP, I recommend using IMAP. I have a help article open here about how to configure Outlook with Gmail, and I usually keep this open because there are some specific server settings here, like the port numbers, which you shouldn't need to memorize. So I have this article open. You can also find this article by going to the Gmail Help Center, and you can just search for Outlook, maybe even your version of Outlook. And here's that first article, are the instructions for setting up Outlook. The first step, though, is to make sure I've got IMAP enabled in my Gmail account settings or this won't work. So I'm in Gmail, I went to my mail settings, and then I clicked the forwarding and pop IMAP tab, and I have the button clicked by Enable IMAP. Now, if you don't even see this IMAP access area, it means that your domain administrator has restricted IMAP access or has disabled it altogether. So you may want to talk to your administrator about why you do not have IMAP access, maybe for security reasons. So I have this IMAP enabled in my account. We'll talk about these advanced IMAP features in another movie in this course, but I'll click Save Changes. Now I'll come into Outlook. I'm using Outlook 2010. You may be using a different version. What you're looking for is the Add Account button or the Account Settings area. So I'll click Add Account. I'm actually going to manually configure my account. So I'll click Next. This is an internet email account. I'm going to type my whole name, my email address. Okay, for account type, do you remember what goes here? It's not POP, it's IMAP. My incoming mail server, it's going to be imap.gmail.com. That will always be the incoming mail server if you're using a Gmail or Google Apps mail account. My outgoing mail server is smtp.gmail.com. Now for username, it's my complete email address. It's not just Susan. So it's susan@su.0.com, and my password I will enter. I do want to use secure password authentication. I'm going to go into more settings now because there are some more settings I need to set up. So I know that in the outgoing server, I want to use authentication. I can use the same as my incoming mail server. You may also want to choose login using, I'm going to try it this way because sometimes it's a little finicky, so I'll just enter all of that information again. So that's my full email address and my password. I'll check the box Require Secure Password Authentication. We'll press OK. I will click More Settings again, and under Advanced, I need to set up the incoming mail servers here. Now I happen to know that the incoming mail server port, if I look at this article, it looks like the incoming mail server port is 993 and the outgoing is 587. So this is 993. The connection is, let's take a look, SSL, and the outgoing server is 587 with a TLS connection. We'll press OK. I'll click Test Account Settings. Okay, we were able to log in and send a test email. So it looks like my settings are correct. I'll click Next. It's going to do the test again. If there were errors, they would appear on this tab here. Usually an error comes from not entering your complete password or selecting the wrong port or forgetting to check some of those buttons for the secure connection. I'll click Finish, and my account is now set up. So I'm going into my inbox for Susan@su.0, and it looks like it's downloading my messages. So I just want to point out a few things here. So what I see in my inbox here should match up to what I see in my inbox on the web. So this looks right. There are those test messages that I just sent. So I'm just going back and forth. Here are those test messages. Now, Outlook looks a little bit different, the way the messages are organized and the way the skin looks, but the messages are the same. Now, notice if I read a message here, so I just read this test message, and now I sync up again here by doing a send receive. My inbox is now synced, so what I just did online shows up here. So I just read that mail, so it's now just marked as read. Also, all of my labels here have been converted into folders. So here are the folders. Now they're not necessarily in the same order. So I'm going to move this message. I'm going to label it Linda Videos. Now, when I go into Outlook and I click on that Linda Videos folder, I should soon see that message that I just put in there. So these do sync up. If I were to put a message in a folder here, that would sync up with my labels online. To find my all mail area in Outlook, I just go into this Gmail tab. I'm going to open this up and I've got a folder called all mail. And so this is the same as my all mail on the web. So you should just be aware of these different elements here. So that's how you configure Outlook for use with your Gmail account. And if you need to delete that at any time, just delete the account in Outlook. Or you could always disable IMAP in your mail settings, and then the send and receive will no longer work. If you have Google Apps for Business or the paid version of Google Apps, you can use the Google Apps Sync tool. It's called Gazmo for short. I'm going to look that up, Google Apps Sync for Microsoft Outlook. And this is a tool that actually syncs your contacts, your messages, and your calendar. So you can really use Outlook as a skin for your Google Apps mail account. And again, this is only available if you've got Google Apps for Business or one of the paid Google Apps accounts. So check this out. If you do, it's tools.google.com, or you could just search for Google Apps Sync for Microsoft Outlook, and that's a tool that you download. What we set up is just an IMAP connection for mail, so you can use Outlook to manage your Gmail or your Google Apps mail. If you use the Mail client on your Mac, you can certainly set that up with your Gmail account or your Google Apps Mail account, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So I am using Apple Mail 4.5. You may be using a different version of Apple Mail, so our screens may be slightly different. Here's what I suggest you do. Go into your Gmail inbox and then open up Mail Help. If you're using Gmail, this will just take you to the Gmail Help Center. If you have a Google Apps account, this will take you to the Gmail for Google Apps Users Help Center. Then click on Gmail Help Center here at the bottom. There's a special section of the Help Center called IMAP. Click on that, and this will give you the configuration instructions for all of these different mail clients. Apple Mail 4, 3, and 2. If you have something more recent than 4, just use the instructions for 4. They should work. So here are the instructions that we're going to use. Going back into my mailbox, I need to make sure that IMAP is enabled. So go into Mail Settings, select Forwarding, and pop IMAP. If IMAP is disabled, make sure you go ahead and select Enable IMAP. So you want to enable IMAP or else this won't work, and then save your changes. Now let's go to our Mail client. So I already have an account set up here. I've got a Gmail account. I'm now going to add another Gmail account or a Google Apps Mail account. So I select Mail, then Preferences, then I select Accounts, and I'm going to add a new account. So I'll use the plus button. So I'll enter my full name, my Google Mail account, and my Google Mail password. Then I'll click Continue. So Apple Mail will try to find the servers. Sometimes it's successful, sometimes it is not successful. Usually when you enter a Gmail address, it will automatically find the settings. But when you enter a Google Apps Mail address, it doesn't necessarily automatically find the settings. So I need to put the settings in myself. Let's start with the incoming mail server. We're going to be using IMAP. I can give this a description. So this is just for you to see. Your incoming mail server is imap.gmail.com. Now they've filled in your username, but your username is actually your full email address. And then your password is already filled in. I'll click continue. And now I have to set up the outgoing mail server. I'll just call it SMTP Gmail. The server is smtp.gmail.com. Now I already have a outgoing mail server set up, so it's trying to autofill that. So I want to put a space there. So this is my outgoing mail server. I do want to use authentication. For my username, I'll put in my complete email address and my password. Then I'll click continue. Okay, and here's my account summary. This is the description, my name, my email address, username, the incoming mail server, and the outgoing mail server. And then I'll go ahead and take this account online. So I'll click create. There are a few more things you want to check on this mail account. So I'll select the mail account. I'm going to check out mailbox behaviors. This looks good. I want to store draft messages on the server, show notes in the inbox, store sent messages on the server, move deleted messages to trash, and store deleted messages on the server. In advanced, make sure that you're using port 993. Also, make sure that your authentication is set to password. And now I see I've got this new account. Here is my inbox. So here's my inbox for new messages, and then all of my labels. So all of these labels are created as folders. So here's that calendar label. Here is that photos label. It's now a photos folder with subfolders in it. And these two mailboxes sync. So I've got this message in my inbox, dictionary.com. If I go ahead and I apply a label to this message, or I move this message into the @delegate folder, it's removed from my inbox. When I go into my account online and I refresh that, that message is no longer in my inbox, but if I go to my @delegate label, I will see that message. So everything is synced up within a few seconds. Setting up your Apple Mail account with your Gmail is a great idea, especially if you're going to be on a train or a plane or a place where you don't have internet access. All of your messages will be available to you in the mail client, and then when you go back online, everything will sync up. Or perhaps you just like the skin of the Apple Mail client better, so you can use this for most of your work, and then you can always access your email via the web if you're on a friend's computer or traveling or on a different device. So I definitely recommend enabling IMAP and setting up mail on your Apple Mail client if you're using the Mac operating system. In this video, I'll show you how to set up the free Mozilla Thunderbird email client with your Gmail or Google Apps account. So you may choose to use a desktop application for mail if you do a lot of travel or you don't always have access to the web. This way you can use Thunderbird to respond to messages, store messages, read messages. And when you get back online, you can sync up your mail client with your online account. So you can use Thunderbird all the time with your Gmail account or just sometimes. So to set up Thunderbird with your Gmail account, the first thing you have to do is go into your Gmail account, go to your mail settings. In the forwarding and pop IMAP tab, make sure that IMAP is enabled. If you don't enable IMAP, you cannot access Gmail from another client. So make sure IMAP is enabled, click Save Changes. Then we'll go back into Thunderbird. From the Tools menu, I'll choose Account Settings. I'm going to add a new email account. In Account Actions, I'll choose Add Mail Account. And I should have mentioned you can download Thunderbird for free from the Mozilla website. So I'll put in my Gmail address and password. Then I'll select Continue. Thunderbird will look up the configuration settings, and it looks like it has found them. So for IMAP, the settings are imap.googlemail.com. The security is SSL. For the outgoing mail server, it's the one listed here, and here is my username. If for some reason this information was not correct, I can select manual config and I can make changes. So if you know for some reason that you're using a different IMAP server or a different port, you can make those changes here. So I'll go ahead and click Create Account. I can add some additional information here, like the reply to address, organization. I could add my signature. I'll go ahead and click OK. Now I'll click Get Mail, and I'll get the messages from my Gmail inbox. So here we go. Here are my messages. Now notice with IMAP, if I do something here like deleting a message, so I'm going to delete this message. When I go back into my inbox online and I refresh it, it will be updated. So it shows that that message has been deleted. Additionally, I can sync my labels. So I'm going to apply the personal label to this message. Let's give it a color so it stands out. And I'll apply the travel label to this message. And now when I go back into Mozilla and I sync everything up, when I click in the personal folder, it syncs with that personal label. So whatever's in the personal label will be synced with the personal folder in Thunderbird. Messages that I've marked to archive. So if I archive a message like this travel message, that archived message, when everything is synced up, will appear in the all mail folder. You can use Thunderbird with multiple Gmail accounts at once. So if you have multiple email addresses, you can use it to manage multiple accounts. Remember, if you make any changes to your password to Gmail, you'll need to go into Thunderbird and make those changes there as well.